Okay, so we're recording.
Yeah.
Celine here with Bob Eden.
Oh dear.
The two of us sharing our gifts.
I love the Irish. I could be Irish from some of the boyfriends my mother brought home, but that's another box of worms. You know?
Well, you're very lucky if you are. Bit of Celtic blood.
Yeah. Well, a wise man once said to me that, well, I said two things. There's only two sorts of people in the world. That's the Irish and those that want to be. And then the second thing he said, and a balanced diet is a pint of Guinness in each hand.
Oh, I think you might be Irish. Do you get Guinness down there?
Sorry?
Do you get Guinness? Where are you? Are you in the Whits on the what islands are you on?
Well, if you look at the map of Australia,
yeah,
about 2 o'clock on the coast in Queensland. So it's the Whitsunday Island region, where it's actually the Cumberland group of islands that just got changed to Whitsunday. That's like the tourist name. But we've got 74 islands in the Cumberland group, and most of them are untouched. Not, you know, it's part of a great big marine park. We've got the Great Barrier Reef, the biggest living organism in the world, as a neighbour. So
you're frozen a bit there. Now Bob's frozen a little. He'll hopefully be back. You there, Bob? Oh yeah. Just you're muted. Yeah, no, good. You went off video and then you went on mute.
Yeah, no, Zoom popped here and started again.
Okay.
Yeah. But and I've been pondering what to talk about, and it's I don't know about you, but we seem to have both gone on a journey through a life-threatening situation, and using the pain and the terror and all of that fear and stuff that was associated with those events, have used that as a mechanism to find a natural way to heal and to get to. For me, it's like, I now know who I am. You know, I've reclaimed my belief in me by going through that process, and coming out the other side. It's how can I put it? I've got so many insights and so many tools I picked up. I'm sure you have insights as well about your journey.
Yeah. And it doesn't just for me. Oh, you're gone again there. Drops a little.
Yeah, carry on.
There? Okay, sorry. Yeah, didn't know if you could still hear me. Yeah, it was 2016 for me, so it's 6 years ago. It could be a lot longer for you, but I find it's unfolding and expanding and changing day by day. The gifts just keep, as they say, the gift that keeps on giving. It's just because the greatest gift for me, I can see now, was that reconnection to myself, to my source, God, essence, truth, whatever you want to call that. It's different, and that just seems to sort of ripple out in my life. Even if I did nothing, it's just sort of it's just sort of rippling out and affecting every aspect of my life. And I was so disconnected, and I don't know about you, I lived a very before, I had lots of warning signs before cancer. I had car accidents, I had depression, maybe not in the same way that you did, but I understand now I was depressed. I didn't know it at the time, only that people said it to me later. I had anxiety, addiction, everything you can think of. But it was all just running away from myself, you know, the pain, it was running from the pain, because I didn't understand how to I stayed out of my body. I understand it now. I was up here because when I came into the body, it just was terrifying. The pain, I would just jump out again. And I didn't know how to move through the pain. And I think you talk about that a lot as well, don't you? That
Yeah,
yeah,
if I can respond to that,
yeah.
Celine. Um, I had my first panic attack in 1984, November 1984, and I woke up and my body was just thrashing around in bed, and it frightened the shit out of my wife, and I wasn't too happy with it. But if only I'd known then what I know now, with hindsight, my body was giving me a message, and I'd already faced my own death probably about a dozen times before that, just through living life, car crashes and being an engineer at sea and all that sort of stuff. But I've come to realize that this was like the final slap from my body, from my soul, telling me to wake up and start living the truth. And it was later on I was to find out that it was the feelings that did the healing. So all these feelings that I'm having in this panic attack, they were so overwhelming. That's when I went to the doctor, and that's when I started taking antidepressants. And that's when I really got disconnected from my feelings. So I think the tablets were beneficial, but it should have only been for about a fortnight, not 25 years.
Wow.
Because now I know that my fear, what I was afraid of was the power of my feelings, how powerful they were. And my reality now is they are simply a measure of how powerful I am and can truly be. So on my boat in about 2012, something like that, I threw my meds away and I just let my body do what it wanted to do and get all these feelings out. And you know, my body is so much smarter than me. It always knows what to do.
Absolutely.
And
what was the trick? Can I ask you what? Because people often ask that. You know, it was different for me. But what triggered that moment on the boat? Do you think where you just decided I'm going to throw these overboard? Because a lot of people wouldn't. They might be too afraid. Or what happened? Do you think in that?
there's a lot of psychotic sharks and crocodiles in the bay now. Well, when I emigrated to Australia in '89 with the family, November again, I stayed, they went back, and that was a hard time. So I'm a stranger in a strange land, but I knew somewhere that, you know, I was destined to be here, which is why I don't own a pair of shoes. You know, I walk this land barefoot. This feels like, you know, my territory. Right? And then late 90s and early 91, I came across John Bradshaw and his work on the inner child.
Okay. And
I was living in Fremantle in a house, and I'm a fitter turner by trade. You know, I was. I mean, I've done lots of stuff, but we had a sweat lodge in the backyard. You know, and my girlfriend at that time was a fellow folk singer. We bought all of John Bradshaw's tapes and used to play them 2 or 3 nights a week for ourselves and our friends, you know, who were trying to work on the inner child stuff. And John Bradshaw's work really saved my life, because I knew I couldn't change my past, but I had a feeling that I could go back and heal it. And by reliving my childhood and then just writing that simple letter to Mum, saying, "Dear Mum, your loving son Bob, I'm just writing to tell you how I felt as a child growing up in our family. This is not about blame. I'm just telling you my story, Mum. Please tell me yours." So I started writing away, you know, like, I hated it when you bashed me with a rolling pin. I hated it when you hit me with a frying pan. And I just got it all out on paper. I thought it was going to be 1 or 2 pages, but it ended up being like War and Peace. But I got it all out on paper, and then I signed it. Your loving son, Bob, awaiting your story in response. And then I posted it to her in England. And that was the hardest thing I'd ever done, because I was at that space of, God, I hate you, Mum. You're always beating me, Oh, what? But you've got to love your mum, because you've only got one mum, and it's that dichotomy that was tearing my soul apart. So that was the driving force to posting that letter. And eventually Mum wrote back saying, Bobby, I'm so sorry. You must think I'm the worst mother in the whole world, but I was only doing my best. And I wrote back, said, Mum, this is not about blame. You just tell me your story. So eventually she did. And basically, she was born in Germany in 1924 between the wars. Dad was an alcoholic, and Mum was a control freak. And she had a really violent childhood too. And so the light bulb went off. Mum was doing her very best, but all she was doing was dumping on me what got dumped on her. So by writing that letter, I'd broken the multi-generational cycle of abuse, and with the understanding of her story, could move from hate through understanding back to love. And then a few days later, I phoned her, and she was back in hospital with a brand new incidence of bowel cancer 20 years apart. And, that's the first time we spoke as mother and son, 2 adults, both crying our eyes out,
Wow.
And it was such a beautiful conversation. And then 3 days later, she died.
Wow.
What a beautiful closure.
Yeah.
I'm walking around like somebody's taking an elephant off my shoulders,
Yeah.
Oh, what's this niggle? Hang on, what's this niggle? What's this niggle here? Right, Dad, you bastards. So I got the notepad out and wrote a similar letter to Dad. He had already died, so I just, why didn't you come to school sports days? Why didn't you ever do anything with me, like that? And put it in an envelope, addressed it to Dad in heaven, and burned it. And that was really how I healed the wounds of my childhood. And my healing wasn't complete until I was able to forgive my abusers. And the caveat to Mum's story was, several years ago, I contacted a spiritual medium, and she shared things with me that only Mum and I knew, so I knew she was fair dinkum. And she said the message she was getting was from Mum. My Mum was saying, Bobby, thank you so much for writing that letter and sharing your story, for I am now doing the same work with my parents in the beyond.
Wow.
Now that blew me away. That really did.
The power of that, even if she doesn't, it's energetic, like she doesn't need to be here physically for that healing, as you said, to like just multi-generational, like that's so powerful. Wow. Like
and that's why I say there's no such thing as mental illness. There isn't. It's just, around about 1880 and 1880, which in Western society, so much gelled, so much crystallized. You've got the Rothschilds and their banking system really to get a hold. Then you got the Rockefellers with the oil industry and the petrochemical industry and the pharmaceutical industry, all this sort of gelling, and psychiatry, raising its other head, where back in those days, if you were an unwed mother, they locked you up in a loony bin because you were classed insane. If you were homosexual, you got locked up for life without trial in a loony bin. And ever since then, these psychiatrists have been kind of dreaming up more mental illnesses and publishing them in their DSM. But for me, it's so simple. And like the message I'm trying to get out there, let's find the name of this enemy. And the name of the enemy isn't mental illness, it's wound of the soul.
Mhm.
So it's
Yeah.
got nothing to do with the mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I can
Yeah.
relate to that. Yeah, on so many levels. Like I was saying it to someone recently, like I would have spent a lot of my younger life, and again, totally unaware. I had a different past to you. You know, my parents are good, but you know, we all experience emotional pain in some way. I'm not going to go into all of it here, but I think there's a vested interest in keeping us all, like you said there, in that, like the medical system, in that trauma or pain, let's say. So, like you said, if I'm not feeling well and I go to the doctor and they put me on some pill to cure the symptom or to whatever, suppress, it's just keeping you on this conveyor belt for life. There's no interest in you getting to the root of this. And as you said, the wound of the soul and, you know, whatever is in there, that pain, they've no interest in us healing that, because once we do, we're free. Like you are, like I am now. Like I've said to people, I don't fear anything in my life now. I don't fear death. I don't fear people. I don't fear anyone. There's great freedom, isn't there? Once you heal that yeah, hole that's inside. But and I would have a big passion. Now I worked a lot with young people and I saw a lot of the pain and the stress and everything they're under, and then all the medication before we went into all of this lockdown and crazy stuff in the last few years. They were all, it seemed to become the norm. Like you said, just take a pill. They've a new name, like for there's names of disorders and illnesses I never heard of, but that just doesn't it, that just keeps you small, and they can control you, and you know, it keeps us away from our power ultimately.
Well, what I
Mm.
realized, Celine, was I was on the boat and I've been researching this stuff. I used to work in automotive research. I've got an amazing intellect,
Mm-hmm.
and that is both a blessing and a curse. But I compiled a database of all the antidepressants I'd taken over the years
Mm-hmm.
and looked at the commonalities. And there are no side effects. But the common ground that they all share is they can produce feelings of panic, anxiety, and suicidal thoughts. And
Mm.
again, the light
Mm.
bulb went up and said,
Mm.
well, this is a no-brainer. They want
Mm.
customers, they don't want cures.
Exactly.
And,
Exactly. Yeah.
you know, and we don't have a healthcare system anymore. We have a
No.
disease management system.
Yeah. Yeah. For
Yeah,
sure. Doesn't William
yeah.
Willem Hoff talk about that as well? His wife, she commit suicide. She was in an awful lot of medication, and he said it was, yeah, that the medication that caused her. I think she jumped over a balcony or something. But you know, it's, and I've seen it in people around me. It's really, isn't it? I've seen it in family members recently, and it's actually quite difficult because I can see what's happening, but don't you? You know, you can reach out, but sometimes people have to go through their own sort of dark night of the soul, don't they? To sort of, I mean, it's great that we, you know, to talk about it. And the more like you share your story, I share my story, it was different. Like I turned to alcohol for many years because that became my medication. You know, they try and they tried to give me medication, and only I was so afraid of it that I didn't take it, you know. Um, and then I got sort of clear of that, but still I was always suppressing. And what saved me, I think, in one way, like when you described on the boat, even though I still went on and got cancer, was I can remember I ended up, I thought I was going to go crazy. It was just a few years before I got cancer. I knew everything was just my nervous system. I just had so much going on inside, and I really didn't know what to do. So someone mentioned this healer. He was a fisherman who lived outside Galway, and I went to him and I had no idea. I just thought I have to do something. And I literally was there for a few hours. We said very little. He just had like in a Reiki position, he had his hands, and I came away. And the next day I was going to a class or going to something, and I literally felt, I thought I was going to be sick. I literally went through this emotional tsunami of like, I was sitting in my car and I howled and I screamed. I went through all of that. That lasted for, I had to ring him. I said, I don't know what's going on here. I can't stop crying and screaming and roaring. It's just, it's like a primal thing. And he said, when you came for that session, your higher self agreed, you were ready, that you had to start releasing this. And that went on. He just said to me, just ask that it never happened. Because I was saying, I have to work. I can't go into work like this. They'll think I'm crazy. They do already. And he said, just ask that it only happened when you're on your own. And I'm telling you, Bob, from that day forward, I'd walk out the door of work. And the minute I'd be out the door, I'd have to run to the car. And I would literally be a half an hour of just coming, like all I can describe as a tsunami of emotion. And it went on for a month. And he said, never ask what it is, what it's about. It's irrelevant. You just need to clear this through you, which I did. But I mean, that was only the beginning. That was just the beginning before, car accidents and cancer and everything. But it was very empowering in another way to do that. You there? You're back. Can you hear me? You're mute.
Yeah, I can hear you. But
sorry. Yeah, no, you were on mute there. But no, it just, when you say like I didn't know any other way, and I'm just grateful that happened, because it was the start of me learning how to, this stuff won't kill me, but it will kill me inside. So, because I don't know about you, but I had been very good all my life at suppressing. And when you,
what I've come to understand is, for me, the first 7 years is when the damage is done. I was born into this existence, a magical, wonderful being. And you just look at a toddler when they're taking their first steps. And the world's a magical place, and they're learning to speak. Hello, Mr. Hello. But by the time they're 7 or 8, it's beaten out of them. Now, what I've come to realize for me was my childhood was very violent, and so the message I got from Mum was, Mum's always beaten me, therefore she does not love me, therefore I'm unlovable, it's all my fault. And the second message was, and the world's a dangerous place. And then Dad, who was never there, Dad never spends any time with me, therefore he doesn't love me, therefore I'm unlovable and it's all my fault. So those are the messages that I internalized during that formative period. But also I was living totally in fight and flight mode. And that, all of that became like a body memory. That's what home feels like at a subconscious level, or what I call a body memory. So as I went through adult life, I found myself getting attracted to relationships with violent, angry women, and I didn't
felt normal, probably. Yeah,
because it feels like home.
Yeah, exactly.
Even though it's absolutely fact. It felt like home.
Yeah, that's understandable. Yeah, I know it sounds crazy, but that is what we end up repeating until we heal it, nearly, don't we? We I didn't grow up in a violent family, so I can't, but I do know it was very emotionally unavailable, and there was no emotion shown. And my parents are good people, and there was very little expressed. So as a result, I learned, don't express yourself, don't show any emotion. You have to always act as if you're happy. And that became my pattern. And I did that in relationships as well. I often end up, my needs were like, so I always ended up with quite, not always, but often quite narcissistic type of people. The way there's that bad, you can people can sort of energetically sense each other, and I now have a much better sense of it, but that became my way, that became home. It is my job to make sure don't say anything, don't show how you feel, and your job is just to keep other people happy. And that's what I learned. But but isn't that, like you said earlier on with your mother, like when you start to see her life and what it was like for her growing up, the way they say we're victims of victims, and I don't even like the word victim, but we all are coming from, I have much greater compassion for that in my family, because I understand what my grandmother was like. She was quite a tough woman. So, And I feel it's it's just, I've ended up being the one in my family to sort of face, I hadn't much choice, and heal. There was that or a death. I think there wasn't any other choice for me. You know, I knew that. I don't know if you felt that at a point. I knew with cancer, it's either this or death. There is no other option. There's no half measure here. It's heal or die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's precisely what was my motivator. But and I'll get back to that in a minute. Oh dear. Yeah. One of the insights I came up, I've got a whole book of insights that I'm working on at the moment. One of them is we're all victims of victims, and
Yes.
if you don't hand it back, you pass it on.
Yeah.
And as far as abuse goes, that everybody's sort of focused on child sexual abuse, but abuse is abuse is abuse. There's emotional abuse, physical abuse, intellectual abuse, you know, and they're all equal. They're all abuse, and it's like that trust that a child has to its parents. Like once that's broken, there's that abandonment, and that's one of the biggest abuses of a child, because it no longer trusts its parent not to hit it, you know.
Yeah. I mean, that's the most severe. Yeah, exactly. And isn't that what's happening collectively? Like, isn't everything just like, I can see much more clearly now the patterns that are playing out in the world, which I wouldn't have been able to understand or see years ago, because when you start to face and understand them in your own life, you know, you can see it. Like, you know, as they say, the governments and that the control and the narcissism, like it's sometimes it's so much darker than that, but just how people don't see it. But I think that's part of that. That's why I sort of feel grateful that I sort of woke up to this a few years ago, because then it became much easier to just have, you know, there's just a moment when you see, when you you know, maybe it was much longer for you, but when I started to see what was going on in the world, it just happened so quickly. And then I was, how can people not see this? But maybe because I think you're still there, yeah. But maybe when you start to face it, and you have to face it in your own life, don't you, first?
Yeah. Do you know why I look so relaxed?
You're only out of bed.
No, it's not because I've had a rum. It's way too early for that. But gaining a higher perspective, like Mayans predicted the birth of the internet, and they got it spot on. They called it the birth of global consciousness, which it is, isn't it? But also their calendar was measuring the evolution of consciousness, and we have entered, according to their ideology, we are just entering the age of integrity. You know, other areas call it the age of Aquarius.
Yeah.
But the way they explain it is like the age that we're coming out of is the age of power, right? And here comes the age of integrity, and it's slowly eclipsing the age of power.
Yeah.
Now, looking around the world, I see that every day. More and more people are finding their own, standing in their own truth, in their own integrity. And so I've got no worries, because evolution is growth. It is inevitable that we ascend.
Yeah.
You know, and if you plot the evolution of consciousness, it's exponential, right?
Mid-flow. Bob will be back shortly. Early in the morning over there.
Yeah, sorry.
You're okay.
Zoom dropped out again. Yeah, so the consciousness is exponential, right? We have just turned the corner. So if you think it's crazy now, hang on for a wild ride.
I know.
And
Yeah.
those that get left behind get left behind. You know, I cannot make anybody up. I've come to the conclusion that the best thing to do is just let my own light shine.
That's it. Yeah.
And also, when we're talking about creativity and being sensitive, I'm very sensitive. Not as good as my dog, but you know, I've come to realize that what I radiate, I create. So I consciously choose to radiate joy.
Yeah.
Enough.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
I touch in any way goes away a little lighter. That's my job. I've got this game I play with all the people in town. I've been doing it for years. And because I don't have any family, the shop assistants and that, they're like my family, you know.
Yeah.
And
but there's different types of family, isn't there? There's there doesn't have to be blood family. I think we're learning that.
Yeah.
Family of frequency, I heard that said recently, which I like.
They say to me, "G'day, Bob, how are you today?" And I say, "Oh, I'm still stupid, nothing changes." And then, you know, it gets ignored. And some days I change it up a bit, you know. "How are you today, Bob?" "Oh, I'm amazingly stupid today, but it's bloody hard work, you know."
But that is the joy. Like, isn't that the gift? That is, we talk about, I know this, we could talk about gifts because both of us, my book is Gifts from the Devastation, yours Gifts of the Depression. So it's wonderful, isn't it, to be able to say that. And when I used to say it to people initially, I was a little bit wary at the beginning, because some people used to look at me and go, "Oh, gifts and devastation, how could you put those together?" Like, because it sort of unsettled people, like you saying gift of depression. Some people would straight away go, "Oh my God." But I'm not sorry, because that is the truth, isn't it? Like, you go through what you go through. It doesn't mean there isn't pain and there isn't suffering, because you've talked about all your pain and suffering. But the gift is that you've come through it and learned and out the other side of it, and look at this bright light. Like, isn't that, to me, that's all that cancer was for me, was just showing me that you need to shine your light. Come on, why do you think you're here? You can't keep suppressing this. That, to me, is all that cancer was creative energy just stuffed inside, not being expressed. It was just stuffed down. And where does it go? It has to go into something. So it went into a big tumor that was just spreading around my body. So, you know, that's, to me, there's no greater gift than understanding that. Like, because I say to people, that was once I got over the shock initially, it was just relief. I was like, life now makes sense. I didn't make sense before to me. It made no sense. Like, how everything just seemed, now I could understand the circumstances of my life. This, you know, this is what happens when you suppress who you are.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
It's quite simple in many ways, isn't it?
Well, that's another one of my bumper stickers. Feelings are healings.
Yeah.
Feelings are healings.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know anybody that's died from expressing feelings, but I know a lot of people that have died from suppressing feelings.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
And it's like thinking is the language of the mind.
Yeah.
But feeling is the language of the soul.
Yeah, for sure. For
Yeah.
sure.
And
for sure.
I just listen to my body.
Yeah.
My body
Same
knows
here.
what it needs.
Yeah.
You know, I just have to obey my body.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I'm the same. I mean, that's how else does, you know, you sort of go, our spirit is here in a body. How else does it talk to us? You know, it has to find a way through our intuition, but it'll show up. As they say, like, pain is a messenger. You know, and cancer was a messenger, depression was a you know, everything is a messenger, but like, we're not led. Who was it who said, I used it in the book, was it Einstein or someone said that what did I say, that our intuition, I can't remember the exact words, but it's basically saying that our intuitive powers, like our feelings, are a sacred gift, and our intellect is a faithful servant. But we've created a society that honors the servant that has begotten the gift. And that's like what you're saying there, you know, But there's no accident, isn't there? There's no accident in why we've been led to believe that, because once you know that you're in your power, like, isn't it? Once you realize that your feelings and that connection with yourself, that's your power. That tells you everything, not your mind, like you said.
Well, I came to the realization that my mind is just a tool that I use when I choose,
Yeah,
for I am so much more than my mind.
yeah.
And now I treat my amazing intellect like a good parent. I treat it like I treat my puppy dog. We just say, hey, mind, you go off and do some research into sonoluminescence and come back and report to me.
Yeah.
So off it goes, wagging its little tail, because it's had attention from the master, and it comes back and reports to me. So I pat it on the head, give it a treat, and say, thank you, mind. You've done a great job. Now get back in your basket. I'll take you for another run tomorrow. So now my mind is just a tool that I use when I need to use it.
Yeah.
Because I don't need to use I don't need to use it living in heart space.
Yeah.
Because in heart space, my day is like a butterfly.
Yeah.
Something will gain my attention and I'll go and do that. Then something else will gain my attention. I'll go do that.
Yeah.
I'll go and do that. And then when my body's tired, we sleep.
Yeah.
And when my body's awake, we play.
Yeah.
And that's my life.
Yeah.
Keep it simple, sovereign.
Yeah, absolutely.
Keep it simple, sovereign.
Yeah. Oh, I 100% with you. It is like it's that sort of flow. Like I found that as well, that generally my mind is so, when I'm on my own, doing my own thing, my mind is so quiet, like that. I don't, like you, I don't listen to all that crazy stuff. And it's just quietened down. It took a while. It took me a long time because it had been racing for years. But cancer treatment slowed it down, because even though I didn't want to go through it, I know it served a purpose, because it shut everything down. It just powered me down for a few years. And now, like, I find it, I cannot live in that mental space. It's like, as you said, if I need to do some research, off I go and use the mind. But, that's what it is. It's a servant. That was what that saying he said was, it's a faithful servant, but we've reversed it. But we're reversing it back again to knowing who's the master, isn't it? It's
I believe that, and this is intentional, these guys have been at it for 1,000 years. But here's another one of my bumper stickers. Thinking is the weapon of mass distraction, because while people are thinking, they're not feeling.
Yeah.
And it is so, I see it with it's usually intelligent, creative, sensible people, but they're the most vulnerable to depression, I have noticed. But they use the excuse, oh, I'm too busy. That they're too busy in their busyness to take the time out to go within and do the work.
Yeah. But that was me before I got sick, Bob, and it was out of fear. There was a lot of fear, so that's why I was in that world of distraction. Do more. Like I literally hit a wall in a car accident a year before I got cancer. I mean, what else did I need? Like it was boom. I mean, what other sign do you need to say stop? Yeah, it literally was like that. I mean, and I knew it was coming. I knew it was like, and but still I was back on the treadmill because I didn't know what to do. And there's a great book I came across. I haven't read it all, but I like the title. It says that the hamster wheel isn't motorized, and I just thought that that says it all. We are the ones that were creating it when we're on this wheel of just incessant doing and distraction. Yeah, but there's fear with that. But yeah, but we're not there now.
Well, it's, oh dear. It's amazingly simple. I've got 3 beacons in my life that, my guiding principle. And the first one is integrity. Like none of this happened without me getting really brutally honest with myself and reclaiming my belief in myself, which got knocked out of me as a kid. But integrity. And that ties in with the Mayan prediction that we have entered the age of integrity, which began on the 21st of December 2012. So that's the big word, integrity. For me, without integrity, none of this magic would have happened, because I'd have still been living out there and not living in here. And then the second word is KISS, the KISS principle, keep it simple, sovereign. And I changed that because the words I use create my reality. And then the third one is my SUE principle, SUE, which is all are sovereign, unique, and equal, and everything else just flows from that. So those are the three words. They're the beacons. And for me, my heart is my only compass, and my inner tuition is my only guide.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm with you on that. I mean, that's been the greatest gift for me. I literally just live for my intuition now. There's no other way. Absolutely no other way. And I don't know about you, but I find if there's ever an old reflex to go back to the old way, I can tell you my body, everything will not allow me. It's just become no. Once you sort of, isn't it? Once you sort of step into that, if I went to go back to an old behavior, I'm just not allowed. It's something strange. It's like a whole new way of, when it's a muscle, when you've spent years, even when you clear the pain and the trauma, I could feel for quite a while there was still the old reflex in me that could come up, the old behaviors, but less and less so once I spend more time in the body, isn't it? It's back into where do you feel but in the body, like you. And like you, I don't walk around in my bare feet now every day here. I'll have to do it over the summer. But an Irish winter hasn't been so conducive to it. But I know when I do the difference. I know the difference. And I have to be in nature all the time. I have to be around trees. I mean, nature has been the greatest teacher for me. It's just the simplicity of it, the flow. It's and once you feel everything, isn't it? Once you feel, I found once I do a lot of breath work practices every day, quite deep ones, and I just I just see it all as energy and just go, whatever it is, just feel it, let it out, cry, whatever. And once you do that, I can feel my power just getting greater. That sort of connection to my power. It's quite a simple. It's what do they say? Simple, but not always easy. And do you think, before we finish up, because I'll have to go in a few minutes, but do you think you said there you can't wake anyone else up, and that you went through and you did the work, what is it, do you think? Because people often say that, they go, but what do I do? Like, there seems to be this connect. Do you just feel there was a timing for you that something just went, okay, I'm something broke open, or something happened that caused that shift in you? Because you did something very, you threw away the medication and you went into a whole different way of.
It was the pain. It was the pain of depression that got so powerful that I just sat down with the pain one day and thought, well, let's look at this pain. Where is it coming from? And I realized it was. I asked myself this question: what's the longest relationship you've ever had in your life, Bob? Ergo, it's with me. So why am I listening to these fuckwits out there telling me there's something wrong with me? Nobody knows me better than me. And with the work that I've done with John Bradshaw and that, that's what drove me. Healing my past. I will recommend. I don't give advice because unsolicited advice is abuse. All I can do is share what worked for me.
Yeah.
But we're all similar enough, and maybe it will resonate with other people. Yeah. But the first step for anybody I would recommend is go and heal the wounds of your child.
Yeah.
Go and heal the wounds of your child. Because if you don't relieve that burden, you're carrying that elephant. Yeah. The whole of your life. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's great advice. I mean, I feel that's what happened to me, even though I mightn't have intended it. And it's no accident that I've come back. When I was diagnosed with cancer, I ended up back living with my mother, who I had felt very distant and separate from all my life. I just had struggled with that relationship. So it's no accident that the day I went in for surgery and I was going to go back to my old house, and I said to my mother, could I stay a day or two after the surgery? And she said, well, stay a week. And I'm still there 6 years later. And we've literally the healing that has come about. And exactly that, the healing has come back, because I could feel myself as this child looking for, why can't you see me? Why can't you hear me? And I can feel that has healed, you know, because I just love her now for who she is. You know, she so that's amazing. That is the key, isn't it? That really is, yeah. Going back to well, thank you. Thank you for today, this morning, Tuesday, Monday.
Yeah, and I look forward to doing it
We'll
again.
do,
Celine.
yeah, and I'll make more time. I'm sorry that it just ended up.
That's right.
We got
That's
a
right.
nice chat, and I hope for anyone watching that you got something out of Bob sharing his story and mine, and we both the other side of different, very different, but everybody's life experience is different. That is, and like you,
Yeah.
I don't claim I have any answers for anyone else. All I ever want to do is just share what's working for me, and like you said, hopefully it will resonate with someone. I'm sure it will.
Well, I believe, Celine, that, again, keep it simple, Sovereign. I believe that by sharing our stories,
Yeah,
our heart-centered truth, our stories, we help to heal each other. We don't need doctors.
Yeah, exactly.
For me, Dr. DR just stands for drug retailer. You know?
Well, that's for sure.
That's all they are.
Yeah. But that's changing.
Bloody oath.
Yeah. That's for sure. That's for sure. And no, even just listening to you and you talking, but that's been healing for me. And I think even when we speak about our own stories is very healing, isn't it? To be listened to be heard. And our voices have great power. They carry great power. The power, you know, that's how our soul, like, you know, expresses. So I find it very, even if nobody else does, I find it very healing to speak about, you know, my experience, isn't it? It's so, so thank you. We'll leave it there. I'll stop the recording now, and thanks everybody for watching. Take care.